Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to dive in to all the things about the Women in Travel Summit that I attended this past week in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Gosh, I'm even excited to dig into some things about Chattanooga because I was very much of the mindset why are we going to Chattanooga? And I ended up having the best time. So before we get into all the things, I did want to announce that I'm hosting an open house for Summer Camp at Sea that's happening next year in June. We're heading to the ABC Islands for 8 nights. I know that is a lot of time away, but if you're able to join us, Summer Camp at Sea is really focused on getting a lot of content. I will be your personal content photographer and videographer. There are 4 days at sea because we're heading to the ABC Islands. If you didn't know, that is Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. And while we're on the islands, I give you kind of like your own free time to do whatever it is you want. If you happen to stick with me, I'm most likely going to get content with you in it. I also recently met somebody who works for the Aruba Tourism Board. So I am hoping to partner on something like really fun and cool to do in Aruba that's either like very Aruba, or you're going to be able to like get a really cool experience. And then we're also going to get really great content of that. So just stay tuned. I am hosting an open house. So if you've had questions, if you're wondering what happens, if you want to hear from the people who attended Summer Camp at Sea last year, then you will want to make sure that you are at, or at least signed up if you can't attend live, to this really special live event with us. So that is happening on June 16th, Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, which I feel is like one of the more popular or like the best times. Like whenever I ask people for times, Tuesday at 2:00 seems to be a great time. So hopefully you are able to join us. And again, if you're not able to join us, just sign up. You will get access to the replay to get the 411 in joining us at Summer Camp at Sea, because it is going to be a really awesome time. And if you've been wanting to get your marketing together, this is going to be the place, because you're going to have my brain, you're going to have the brain of your peers, and we're going to make sure that you look freaking amazing in all of the shots that you get. So the link is in the show description. Now let's get on to talking about the Women in Travel Summit, which this has been on my bucket list of events to attend for quite a few years now. I do have to give a huge kudos to Iris and Claire of Women's Work, because one, if you didn't know, Women's Work is an accelerator program for, I believe it's like you're in your first couple of years in the travel industry. And I happen to teach one of the classes about sales funnels and lead generation for that accelerator. So if that kind of sounds like you and you're wanting to get like one more like small group guidance on building your travel agency, you may want to consider that, because I think their next cohort is going to be starting at the beginning of next year. So stay tuned. But I have to give a huge shout out to them, because they were able, with their partnership with the wonderful community who is the host of the Women in Travel Summit, I was able to get a pass to the event. And like I said, I knew that the event was in Chattanooga, but as fate would have it, there's not even nonstop flights between Orlando, or the nonstop flights are very specific because they're with Allegiant. So it just didn't work out. So I was like, is this really worth it? It's not that far away. It ended up being like a really smooth, easy trip, outside of like one of the legs to get in and out of Chattanooga. They have a really small airport. There's only 8 gates currently, and I loved it. But aside from the airport, this event was probably like one of the events from my dreams that I could have wished, like only wished actually existed, and it does exist. So this is a women in travel summit, but really anybody can attend. So if you don't identify with being a woman, feel free to check out this event. If this event is your style, this might be something that you might be interested in, because there were a few good men that were there. There were also many queer people that were there. This was like the most colorful representation of people in the travel industry that I think I've ever seen at an in-person event. Not only that, like, we're in such values alignment, not only with like diversity and having different people there and on the stages, because it was not only diverse in terms of attendees, the stage was also diverse with different speakers and also different abilities. Lots of people talking about ADHD and being neurodivergent. And then we also spoke, or somebody that was on stage also had a sight impairment that they had since they were a young girl. Speaking of the stage, there was a ramp on the stage for anybody that needed the ramp. I don't think I've ever seen any event have a ramp on the stage. They're also very mindful of sustainability and their environmental impact. So you're not going to get any paper cups or any paper mugs for coffee or water. Everything will come into a glass or be available in a glass container. And they also recommend using a refillable water bottle, which thankfully they did have a few on site to purchase because I happened to forget mine at home. So now I have like a cool souvenir from the event as well. But all these mindful touches, it's just, I feel like we're getting more modern in how we plan events. Like, something that I found really touching, like, I am not a parent, but there are a lot of women travel creators that have children. And so next year, they're definitely going to be bringing some form of childcare or even like a mini camp, because it's not that they just want to take care of the kids. They also want the kids to experience the destination since they're there. And while they're having all this fun with all the other kids, and they're going to have like different age groups as well, then the parents can go and attend the live sessions. They can go and start mingling with the different brands and make connections and partnerships from there. So it really is a win-win all around. I'm telling you this because if you have kind of felt a little bored or like you don't fit in, the Women in Travel Summit might be a really great place for you, because I have never been to like a friendlier conference where like people were saying hello in the elevators, we're complimenting each other, we're saying hello as in we're in the hall. Like, it was just such a really, really great community. Also, they are throwing a flash sale that if you're listening to this on Friday, June 5th, today is the last sale, or the last day of the flash sale. I believe tickets are currently $249 with the flash sale. They're going to jump up to double that price. They're going to jump up to $499 after the flash sale. So hopefully you're hearing this on time. There are payment plans available regardless of if you get in on the flash sale or you have to wait a little bit to secure your spot. Next year is in Ann Arbor, another place I would have never imagined that I would have wanted to go, but actually one of the most exciting brands that I had spoken to at the Women in Travel Summit, because at their table, they had 3 different women-owned businesses from Ann Arbor featured. A chocolate business, a lip balm business, and then also like a temporary tattoos business. I was like, what's the right word? So I had even thought like maybe we need to have a strategic travel entrepreneur retreat in Ann Arbor. So to hear that next year's event is happening there, it was just really stinking exciting. Now, this event is geared towards travel creators, but there were many travel advisors and also many people who kind of do both, like travel advisor and maybe travel blogger, or travel advisor and travel creator. So just because you might not identify as a creator, you are still more than welcome to attend. I think you're going to get lots of really great marketing tips and strategies to help build your business and also to help build your network. Like I probably have like 40 new connections on my Instagram that I've made because of attending this event. So again, like, cannot sing its praises. They also but like discuss real life topics and situations, like the realities of working in travel and how travel is political, despite many in this industry not wanting to talk about it and keeping it out of Facebook groups. But everything we do, I mean, to get your passport, who do you have to go to? The government. So it is political. We're in a political industry here. So talking about the realities of like working with other brands or other organizations within the industry. Touching a bit on accessibility, touching also on environmentality and slow travel and getting back to nature, which a lot of people, like, that's one of the biggest things that I learned from Pinterest. One of the big trends that they're having is that people are looking for activities off screen for their kids, which I'm going to get deep into some of my notes that I took from the session. So stay tuned, because we're going to talk about like marketing, and I took a lot of notes about Pinterest. So Pinterest has been on one of your like to-dos. Stay tuned to listening, but I truly cannot like say more amazing things. There was even like an awards that was so celebratory. It's just such a great community. Then Chattanooga, I did not know that it was named the friendliest city in the United States of America. But having gone to Chattanooga, I felt that, like, you didn't have to tell me. Like, when somebody told me, I'm like, well, of course that makes sense. Because I went to the grocery store, I ate at a lot of different restaurants, and everybody was so friendly and nice and helpful. Like, even the Uber drivers, to the people that are working at restaurants. Also, if you didn't know, there's a lot of really great food in Chattanooga. Like, that is a foodie city. Some of the things that I like, 'cause there's a couple of different events that happen, and one of those, aside from the awards and a goodbye brunch before they announce the destination for next year, is the big welcome party, the welcome event. And that was hosted by Chattanooga, and they showed up and showed out, because there were a lot of like really creative activations that were at this event. So if you wanted to get your caricature done, I was able to get a bandana embroidered, and it was like the old-timey embroidery, not a computer doing it. Photo booth, some really great food, some really great drinks. Also being mindful that not everybody drinks alcohol. Like, I have never been a big alcohol drinker, so they did have mocktails available. One of them was the other one, it was delicious and very refreshing. So just like, I clearly am nerding out about this, and I want you to go, because I would love to see you there with me next year. So let's get into some of my notes, because I did want to share. Some of the notes that I took. Like, I'm not going through everything on my notes, but I do think that there are a couple things that are applicable to you. So one of the things that one of the speakers, her name was Alice Ford, she was talking a lot about creating content and brand partnerships. So again, I'm just going to go over the stuff that I feel is going to be more beneficial as a travel advisor and marketing your own business. The top thing that I think I got from her presentation is something that she said about being irreplaceable. That we need to stop focusing on being better, and that we just need to own our own lane. Now, I will say too, there was a lot of talk about niching and people like wanting to throw away the word niching, but something that she liked, and kind of like what I have seen, is like, your niche can be multiple things, because that ends up being your niche. So your niche can be autistic kids and Mediterranean cruises. If those are two things that you like to do, when you stick them together, that is a powerhouse in itself. That can be its own niche, because she talked a lot about like owning the lane. Like, you don't have to go down a lane somebody else's. Like, create your own lane. Like, don't worry about being better. You're creating something new and something innovative with your travel business that, like, put the blinders on and just be irreplaceable at that thing that you do, like, so super well. I don't know personally what that is for you, so feel free to share, because I'd love to know what is like your intersection of a niche when it comes to like your specialty and what you do really, really well. Now, one of the big themes that did come up a lot, and it did come up in this session, was like your story and your history is the strategy, is the positioning. And I'm like, she said that, and I'm like, I've been saying this for a while now, because you and like your unique viewpoint is why it's the whole point of marketing. It's why people are attracted to you, as far as being like, you know, a business. It's probably why people are attracted to you because they want to date you or they're married to you. But it's also the reason that people want to do business with you, or at least like be in your community or be in your audience online. There is something that is unique that you have shared. So if you are hiding behind that, we need to stop doing that. And I know we've said it over and over and over again, but especially with this trends, quote unquote, of yapping on Instagram, you need to be front and center. And I say that very loosely because I think it's, I guess, a little ironic that yapping is now the N word, and that also that's like the thing that everybody's focused on now on Instagram are these yapping videos, because that has been talked about for many years, and we've been saying that is important. I call them talking head videos, not yapping videos. But if you identify with that, then go ahead. If that makes it easier for you to say that you're yapping, then go on and you yap. It's also important, like when you're creating content that is marketing your business, to think of like, what is the outcome? What is the end goal? So that you're not just creating content to like have something on your social media. So like, especially for me, a lot of the content that I have, like there's some content that I just want you to like vibe with, that I just want you to be like, oh my gosh, that is me. Or I totally get this. Like, I want to open up a conversation. There's other content that I want you to be listening to the podcast. Other types of content, like especially on the travel agency side, you're focusing on bookings, you're focusing on awareness, just people knowing who you are, knowing what you do. And then another big kind of pillar of an outcome is that aspiration. You want to get people dreaming or thinking or having that conversation. It's really like what your niche kind of tends to be is the intersection of what your passion is, what you're really good at, that expertise, and also what is the market demanding. And I feel like that last part, you might not think somebody means what those first two things are the intersection of. But this is where I would kind of challenge you to get out of your comfort zone. If you really want to do X and Y and all you're missing is Z, are you really positioning X and Y correctly? Are you in the right types of communities to be doing that? Or maybe you need to get in front of other communities who are really demanding that Z part. So really thinking about that. Something that was interesting in terms of like clout, because we're talking a lot about like PR and, you know, getting found online, that people are types of people that people want to do business on. And she did touch about the importance of awards. I did have a chat with her afterwards, because I know recently, I believe it was in Lori Gold's Facebook group, talking about paid awards and how most of us don't like that awards are paid. Well, Alice kind of bummed me out when she said that is kind of the standard. Like, even to get into the Emmys, you have to pay for that nomination. And not like necessarily pay for that nomination, but pay for your entry, and then it will be reviewed for nomination. So I'm kind of like, well, if the TV shows do it and like all the other big like arts awards kind of do it, then I guess our industry would do it. And I'm looking at you, Travel Weekly, I think it's Travel Weekly, Wave Awards, that has a pretty high price tag, because I think it's almost $1,000 or over $1,000 now. Because she was telling me that some are like maybe a couple hundred, some might be like $50 to enter to be entered into consideration for a nomination for an award. So if you have been looking at awards and also poo-pooing the fee, it's kind of standard. Unfortunately, don't like that, but I guess it is what it is. Something that was interesting that she had mentioned is that TV has seasons, but creators don't. And I feel like you as travel advisors kind of need to hear that too, because I think like we're always supposed to be like on all the time, but there are periods, because even like it just made something more of a reality where we might not, like, we feel like we have to be doing and on and all the things. But even TV shows get to have an off button. And it kind of made me think a little bit about this podcast, because I always have episodes coming out to you. But there are periods of the year where I have like replay episodes, or somebody might take over the podcast, or where I might invite other people and I'm not putting as much content out, but they're putting the content out for you every week. So really thinking about that too, when I think that sometimes I also need a break from constantly creating things. Something that you might want to think about, especially if social media content is hard for you, or like creating like a blog post is a little bit hard, is thinking that people, and like remembering, people just want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, that a lot of the content that you should be creating needs to have like some sort of emotional payoff, whether that's just giving people laughs, whether that's like pulling at their heartstrings because they can identify it, whether that's like telling somebody we've got to go on this trip because it's the trip of my dreams. Like, there has to be some sort of emotional payoff. So I'm big about finding the different angles of a story to like really be creative. And she kind of affirmed that you've got to find the story. There's lots of different stories, but where are the unique angles of a certain destination or a certain experience? And you can do that like by putting the human interest bit in the forefront. So when you're in new destinations, like asking the tour guides about unique stories, asking them about their stories, because they might have even a unique angle that you might want to feature within that like blog article that you're working on, or that social media post that you're working on. So you want to make sure that like one of the outcomes, like I had mentioned, like the whole awareness, but also like you want to make sure in your content people are feeling something, they're learning something, or they're deciding something. So that kind of like goes in with those parallels. Like if they're feeling something, that's like an aspirational type of content. If they're learning something, that's an educational piece of content. And if they're deciding on something, that's because you've given them information that they can feel comfortable in making the decision. Also, not being afraid to repeat the same things over and over and over again, because people need to know that. And that like can be within your content as well. Even like from grade school, we all learn there's an intro, there's a body, and there's a paragraph. The intro introduces what's in the body. The body states what you said you were going to talk about in the intro. And then in the conclusion kind of wraps it all up and tells you, I told you I was going to talk about this. This is what I talked about, and this is what you can do with this information. So keeping that in mind in your own stories and in your own content. Let me see what else from this one I thought might be really great. I think that's actually wraps up that session. This next session probably doesn't pertain. This is more about like creating content to sell, which I know not many of you, that's not the business that you're in. I did want to share a tool that I learned about called Slido.com, Slido.com. If you wanted to do like word clouds in any presentations that you're having, so if you wanted to like either get feedback, the way that somebody used this, like this was a session about planning in-person events. So it's kind of like you could use it like for planning cruise nights or like selling group trips, and asking people like, what's one word that comes to mind when you think about this destination? And then you can just ask them various questions, like either before or after. And this, I believe it's like a free service that it will auto create that cloud so you can like see everybody's responses as it's coming in. It also helps them keep a little bit anonymous because you don't have to put any personal information in there. So that was a cool piece of technology that I think you should know if you're wanting to use that. I think it's time to get into my plethora of Pinterest notes. One of the biggest takeaways from this Pinterest session was that people are on Pinterest with an intent, a very specific intent. Whereas when people are on other social media platforms, they are just scrolling on by. Like there's no like intent. The intent really is to escape a little bit. But on Pinterest, people are wanting to find information. This is also why a lot of people consider like Pinterest a search engine, because there is higher intent there. Meaning like somebody wants to plan something, somebody wants to buy something, and they're looking for information to make that buying decision, which is what makes Pinterest a little more apt of a place where you should definitely be promoting your travel agency. He did mention focusing on optimization, and it does have the traffic and the reach to get your desired outcome. So if you are looking at your Pinterest profile, everything on your profile, he said, is searchable. So being in a niche and having a niche is really, really good for being on Pinterest. You want to make sure that you fill out, when you are working on pins, you fill out every single part of that pin, because otherwise that pin will not be seen as complete. And if Pinterest doesn't see the pin as complete, they will not push it out, which means you kind of like put a lot of effort for nothing if you're not doing it like fully and completely on Pinterest. There is like a tagging feature, but sometimes like when you are uploading pins from like Canva and going into Pinterest, you might not be able to use like the tagging function there. So he did mention something about like the description helps function as the tag when you're uploading from Canva and the tag is not available. Verified merchants only are the ones who can tag products, but I'm pretty sure you can just like add a link even if you're not like trying to sell something directly, like if you're trying to get to a blog link or anything on that. Your images on Pinterest, he did say there should be a clear intent on that image. Your pin is 25% more likely to be found if it is on a board. So use those boards. It sounded like there were kind of like some misconceptions about boards that he wanted to like really break. You can put one pin on many boards as long as it belongs there, but don't use the same image because Pinterest also values original content like a lot of the other platforms are. So again, if it's like the same type of pin, you just got to vary like the image. Now we're getting into like some travel trends that he noticed. And also, if you didn't know, they do like a prediction. Pinterest is known for its trends and predicting trends. 88%, there's 88% accuracy of anything that Pinterest predicts. So I feel like that's a really high enough percentage that like if it's finding certain trends and then letting you know what the trends are, it's probably spot on that is actually what is happening. You can find those predictions at pinterestpredicts.com. So some of the current predictions on like specifically travel, because obviously we were at a travel conference, is that right now, kind of like what I mentioned before, is that parents and families are looking for off-screen activities right now, which is a really great fit for travel advisors, especially if you do work with parents, families that have children. Travel is a great way to get people off of their screens. It was hilarious when he mentioned that Gen X and millennials, their current trend is that they're looking for beaches. He did the Miranda Priestley, and he's like, wow, florals in spring. How remarkable. Or I forget how the quote goes now. But he's like, millennials looking for beaches, Gen X looking for beaches. How trendy are we right now? One of the biggest spots that's really trending on Pinterest is Portugal and Spain. He did say that while there are more Gen X and millennials on the platform, 42% of the users are Gen Z. And as a millennial, I feel like Gen Z is now the millennial of like my new era. Like we passed the baton, because I remember when I was a younger millennial, there was so much talk about how to reach the millennial audience. And I feel like now we've passed that baton to Gen Z. So there was a lot of focus on Gen Z, that when they are on Pinterest, that they are looking to shop. And I feel like that's kind of accurate because of TikTok and TikTok Shop and like how that has become so popular. He says that if you're in travel, you are in a very great spot because travel does intersect pretty much every single vertical. So like when a Gen Z is looking for travel, some of the things that they're looking for is grocery store or food travel. They're looking for personal care, beauty, so things that you can use while you are traveling. He said that there's 28 million Gen Z users who are using Pinterest to travel. So if you've ever questioned if there's enough people to like work with, they're out there, and they're most likely looking for somebody to work with on Pinterest. You just might not be on there, or you're not doing Pinterest in the way that you need to be doing it. So he was very much like, there is a lot of growth, and there's a lot of also fast growth when it comes to that demographic of Gen Z. They have a higher likelihood to take an international trip. They are emboldened and aspirational on Pinterest, so very dreamy. Like blogging, and I've mentioned this before, Pinterest is one that has seasonal patterns. So of course, like if Gen Z or Gen X and millennials are thinking about beach right now, they're looking at content that was most likely at least posted a couple of months ago to gain that popularity and traction now, because it's kind of like similar to Google. Google needs a little bit of time to like warm up to you and make sure that you're the right person it should be suggesting. So he did say to be working 3 to 4 months ahead on your pins. So right now we're in June. If we're thinking 4 months ahead of time, we're in October. What is in October? Halloween. So if you are like wanting to sell like Halloween cruises, because I know there's a lot of that. That makes me think about Halloween on the high seas. Disney cruises for all those Disney nerds that are out there. I know Virgin Voyages has been doing like a Halloween cruise. This could also be like, I think of river cruising and doing a pre or a post that stops in Transylvania. So doing like that lower Danube river cruising. That also means like in a couple months, you need to be starting with holiday posts if you haven't already started. So thinking about that for your pins, like that it is seasonal and you do have to work 3 to 4 months ahead of time. I mentioned that trends tool. It can show you how things are performing. You can filter by demographic for the trends tool. So if you know that you are absolutely not working or don't want to work with Gen Z, or if you don't want to work with a different demographic, you can kind of see like what's trending by demographic and then also those predictions. He recommends to not ever delete a pin that has been really successful because it helps your profile out. One of the other trends that's big in travel right now is something he called darecations. So like very edgy, very daring, so very adventurous types of vacations. That does not sound appealing to me at all, but I'm sure some of you got really excited that I mentioned that. You also can share boards on Instagram. I think he kind of walked us through. I don't remember how to do that, but that is a possibility if you're wanting to do that. There's also this thing called a site called creators.pinterest.com, which I think can also help like with figuring out trends or just some things that are working, or either best practices as well. You can also group boards for collaboration. So if you're going to be partnering maybe like with a DMO, a tourism board, maybe a rep company, if you're wanting to put like boards together, you can do that for collaboration. They just have to be very intent driven, very curated, and you are able to do cross traffic sharing. Boards. Intent driven. He wanted to make sure that we got into a lot of boards. So boards need to be intent driven. They need to be very specific. They can be just about like destination experience, or he was saying, retract that. So boards need to be intent driven and very specific. It can't just be about like showcasing the destination. Like you can't just say, oh my gosh, Greece is so great to be visiting right now. That is not good enough. Like you have to get in deeper, which goes into the specificity that I have been preaching for quite some time now. So hopefully you hear me now. He did say to make boards actionable. He did say one of the things that's pretty popular when it comes to boards and travel is low budget experiences. And also that could be like an example, like it's not just Greece, but low budget experiences in Greece. You could create a whole board around that. So again, furthering down, we're getting to the core of the onion. We're peeling back those layers. We're not being superficial. We're getting really deep here. He said collages to product pins have 2 times more sellability over any other pin type. So again, I'm kind of like a newbie when it comes to Pinterest, so I'm not exactly sure. Like collages, I know what it means, and like product pins. So it was, if you have been using them and we're not a little sure, that does have a little bit more saleability. The last kind of presentation that I went to was about retreat planning, which I know some of you do there. So just some highlights, if you are one that also plans retreats for clients, is the number one reason people don't sign up isn't the budget. It's more fear. And it's fear of a lot of different things. This can be like fear of belonging, fear of, is this the right place? Am I going to fit in? So that is more of what the fear is. I loved this speaker. She is a coach. Her name is Cindy Swalm. This was a quote that she heard from somebody else. Anything you say after I can comes looking for you, or I am starts looking for you. So if you start saying, it's kind of like you have to say it and then you got to believe it and then it comes to be. So if you're going to say, I am the premier travel advisor that specializes in retreats for adult couples, when you position, this is kind of like that analogy that I put, like you're drawing the line in the grass, you're drawing the line in the sand. You are standing firm in exactly what you do. So, be careful, because when you do say the words I am, that's exactly what's going to come looking for you. You are going to become known as that speaker because you are taking on that persona. You're going to be known as the leader in that type of travel because you are assuming you're becoming that persona. So I thought that was like a really powerful, regardless of if you do retreats or not. She did talk about having like event insurance. So this might be if you're hosting retreats, that's something that's mindful for you. If you are not hosting retreats, but you're working with retreat hosts, that's also something mindful, just to let them know that they will most likely need to have event insurance, starting out with shorter retreats first and then maybe going into longer retreats. making sure you give people downtime because they're going to be exhausted. She did recommend doing kind of like an early bird. And this is kind of what I've mentioned before. Like if you're trying to sell a group trip of any sort, like having some sort of early bird, I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be a discount, but maybe it's a value add that they can only get to kind of like get people committing sooner. But you can't bend on that value add. You can't bend on that early bird. Like if you say it ends this day, it ends this day, and that's it. Because you have to stay firm. If you kind of keep budging on that, people are not going to believe you in the future when you say something like that. No do feel. She did mention like just being mindful about like how people are for these different retreats, and like maybe some want to be hugged, maybe some don't want to be hugged. So how are you going to identify people from that? And then also using a lot of stats from testimonials to help sell on your sales page. So I think that's like really helpful for like group trips too. So I know that was a lot of information, a lot of varied information, but I did want to share a lot of my juicy notes from the Women in Travel Summit. I did talk with the speaker about Pinterest because he works for Pinterest, if he would come on the podcast, and he is very interested. So stay tuned. If you have more questions on Pinterest, please send those to me so I have something stockpiled away that we can address for that conversation that comes direct from you, because I definitely want you to be able to shape that episode when it does come to fruition. So just go into like the show description, hit that button that says send Rita a text with your thoughts. I will get that and I will keep them on reserve until we can have our Pinterest speaker on here. So let me know what was your biggest takeaway from this episode, because I know I talked a lot, but there was some really juicy stuff, especially when it comes to Pinterest, that I definitely want to hear about. So that is it for this week. Please sign up for the open house on June 16th. And I will see you back here next week, everybody. Bye. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.